Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Calcio Corner. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe Archino, joined by our resident soccer expert, Antonio Coppola. Antonio, yesterday we covered Iona women's soccer. Today we're back in studio breaking down Serie A. Now, obviously, it's an international break this week, but last weekend was an incredible one for Serie A.
Joe, first of all, yes, last week the games were unbelievable. We had a huge heavyweight matchup so early in the season between Juve and Roma, but you just said there's an international break. I'm feeling a little, empty. There's something missing. Like, it's so early in the season, already a break. It's almost like a bye week that you get in the NFL. I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan.
I'm not either because, we're really only 2 weeks into Serie A and we've already got a break. And the thing I really don't like is we just had such a heavyweight fight. Mm-hmm. Now I want to see, where does Juve go from here? Where does Roma go from here? One of the really cool things, obviously at this point we all know Roma beat Juve 2-1. Juventus has lost their first 2 matches for the first time in 87 years of Serie A history. Think about that for a second.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible.
Unprecedented. No one saw it coming, especially after the year they had last year, going over the 100-point mark in Serie A. So it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm not going to complain. I despise Juve. I think you know what I think. I don't need to say it over these airwaves, but.
Let me ask you this, Antonio. When I look at it, I look at Roma, and last year they could never get past Juve. Mm-hmm. the first match they lose, the controversial penalty kicks, then they draw. This year, they beat them week 2 of the season. Do you think that can give them the momentum that they need and the confidence that they need to really plunge forward?
Joe, I absolutely think so. Yeah, and it's not only the confidence that they need in beating Juve, but just look at the moves they made in the offseason. We didn't talk about Edin Dzeko last week.
Oh yeah.
I watched the entire game as you did as well. And after seeing the way he helps that team, move up the field, the ball possession, he just really carried that team throughout the game. And then to see that on a fluttered cross over the box, high up in the air, he's right behind Giorgio Chiellini. He literally just jumps over him, heads the ball in the corner of the net, past Gianluigi Buffon, like it was nothing. And right then and there, I said, this is a guy that can make a difference. This is the guy that Roma needs. And then, they made other acquisitions too. Mohamed Salah, who actually went over to Fiorentina last year. I believe he went over from Chelsea. Jose Mourinho kind of wanted him out the door, so he went over to Fiorentina. I remember Inter trying to make a bid on him, and he tore it up for Fiorentina. Again, they beat Juventus. He had some amazing goals. He's now with Roma this year, so pair him with Dzeko. I think they're very formidable. I think they're going to have a great year playing alongside each other, and I think the sky's the limit for Roma this year. And I know last week I said, Lazio it's going to be between Roma and Lazio.
I was about to get to Lazio.
Oh gosh, dude! I last week I don't know what was into me. I really thought that Lazio.
I had them in third too, so I was right behind you.
Oh man, but no. After watching Roma the way they played against Juventus, there's no denying that they're the team to catch right now.
Well, I think you said it best. Make a difference. And I think last year that was the problem, is there were so many times where that offense stalled and they had so many 1-1 draws. They could never seem to muster that offense when they needed it. And that's why I think, like you say with Dzeko, I think that gives them exactly what they need. You have a guy who for Manchester City kind of got dwindled down because of all the talent that they had, but now he can really be on more display with Roma, and you're seeing how big of a difference he can make. Now, I think, again, like you said, with the confidence thing with Roma, it's so big because now I think they can kind of taste it, and they beat Juve, and they can see. Serie A is for the taking.
Oh, yeah.
The big bad monster Juve is gone. They've lost their first 2 matches. It's not the same team. This is our league. We can take it, and I think obviously you're going to get some competition from Inter Milan, AC Milan, some other ones. Lazio, and we're seeing too, there really hasn't been that guarantee. I don't think any Serie A team has shown a full, surefire guarantee yet. But I think Roma, if anybody, you have to say, clearly is kind of on that next step forward with beating Juve the way they did.
Absolutely. You have to, and again, we talked about this last week. It's so early on in the season. Soccer in general, not only Serie A, they endure such long seasons. This thing's going to go all the way into May. So it's still early, but I have to completely agree. Roma looks like, the favorite right now, if you can even use the word favorite at this point in the season. But no, you mentioned Inter, and I just want to say that Stefan Jovetic is a dream come true because the guy scored 3 goals in 2 games. He scored every goal for Inter, and they won both games, and they're up there in the table with 6 points. And I'm very satisfied. I know they only beat Carpi 2-1. Carpi's a team that was promoted from Serie B, but no one's going to have an easy time going to play in that stadium. They've got a very small stadium over in Carpi. I think they're up in northern Italy. The fans are electric. That was the first game. The game they played last week against Inter was the first game in the history of Serie A ever played in that stadium, ever played in front of those fans for that team. They were electric. They put a lot of pressure on Inter in the first half. I happened to watch that game as well. But I just wanted to say no one's going to have an easy time going to play in that stadium. So for everyone out there that's saying, oh, Inter only beat Carpi 2-1, it should have been 5-0, just wait. Just wait until you have to go up there.
I mean, that's the thing I love about Serie A is even when you see, I mean, it's always exciting no matter what league it is, really. I mean, when you see the relegated teams and then you see the big boys come into their houses and the passion and the energy that those fans bring, even in those smaller places, it's incredible, and it's why the game is just the best. I mean, when you have that passion and that fan base. But Serie A, we've got a little bit of break, so we don't really have anything to go forward to, but we will be back next week with it, previewing it. And the last thing before we cut off this segment is, obviously, Antonio, there's a lot of Juve fans out there. The team's done a little bit of winning, so they've got a pretty big fan base. If you're a Juve fan today, how worried should you be? Can they bounce back and recover? I mean, or is this the kind of the season that they're in store for?
Well, Joe, it's hard to speak in the perspective of a Juve fan from that point of view because I can never imagine myself being there. I've never thought about it. You just threw me a question that is something I've never even thought about. So I'm going to try. If I were a Juve fan, yeah, I would be worried. Only because, like I mentioned to you, they lost 3 really important pieces that each played 90 minutes in Pirlo, Tevez, and Vidal. And when you lose 3 players like that you can't just replace them with anyone. That's some guy you pick off the street or a guy you make a trade for or you sign. So, yeah, I would be worried. And I would be certainly worried for tournament play, like in the Champions League. I can't see Juve going very far. I mean, if they're outed early on in the Champions League, that I think more power to them because they can kind of shift their focus over to Serie A. Something I mentioned that Lazio could potentially do because they were outed by Bayern Leverkusen. But that's not. I guess they're not really focused at all because they lost to Chievo 4-0 last week. So I don't know. But in terms of like looking at Juve, I really do think that you got to be worried. You can't. They lost the first 2 games of the season after a record-setting year. So there's no reason to be calm.
I mean, I think the stat I said at the beginning of the show, Juventus has lost their first 2 matches for the first time in 87 years of Serie A history. That alone should tell you something right there. It's a different team for Juve. There's a lot of different faces, and I think, like you said it, Juve fans, I'm sorry, but be a little bit worried. But that is going to end it for this segment. Coming back, I don't know what we're going to come back with.
We're going to come back with some soccer.
Calcio Corner. It could be anything, so stay tuned, and you never know what we'll come back with.